Hi, well here's a thought for today from Genesis chapter 8. I'm going to read the verse, Genesis 8 verse 22. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. God is making this promise to Noah all those years ago. Been a great worldwide event that's just happened of cataclysmic proportions, along with the promise that God wouldn't flood the whole earth again. God also gives this promise that the seasons will continue. Interesting that God didn't say, after all this flooding, it will be 30 degrees and perfect sunshine forever after. No, God gave seasons, and he gave them for a purpose. We know well from nature, don't we, that if it's all sun, the plants won't grow. And if it's all rain, the plants won't grow either. Seasons are an important part of growth, having some times that are what we would perceive as easier than others, and having other times that we perceive as more difficult. Both are used in different ways to grow. With everything that's been going on just recently, we have had some big changes in our family. The children are off school now, and we decided that an important part of coping was to have a routine for our days. And part of our routine is that we get up and have our reading together as a family at 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock we've been going out for a cycle ride. And today we were going basically just along a straight bit of path, directly east-west for about a mile, and then turning around and coming back. What we hadn't realised was actually it was a bit more windy than we realised. That meant that one way the wind was strong and we had to pedal hard, and then coming back it was rather easier. However, got back and realised that although coming back with the wind behind us was easy and was probably quicker and it was easier to talk and so on, it probably hadn't done us anywhere as much good from an exercise point of view. It had been easy, but hadn't done us the good that the exercise of straining, as it were, against the wind would have done. The scriptures remind us, don't they, that God is producing or seeking to produce fruit in our lives. John 15, the Lord Jesus says, I am the true vine and you are the branches. He's looking to produce fruit in our lives, and that fruit needs times of adversity as well as times of sunshine. God's ways are so much higher than ours, aren't they? We think of the way that it was through persecution in the days of Acts, and indeed in years subsequent, that the church has grown, perhaps at its most. We think too of the way that God so often is working differently to what we would think by human logic. We remember Isaiah 55, my ways are higher than your ways. That doesn't in any way minimize the pain, the difficulty, and perhaps even the fears that those hard circumstances can bring. It isn't in any way minimizing the cross, is it? Or taking away from the pain and the suffering that we know that was involved in that. To look back and realize now that it was a wonderful part of God's amazing plan of salvation, that through what looked humanly disastrous, God has done a great work of salvation. To return to that idea of exercise, as we were out riding this morning, Hebrews chapter 12 reminds us these words. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11. For in the moment, God's training seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those that have been trained by it or exercised by it. Greek word there, we'd recognize for training, for exercise. It's the word gymnasium. I've been struck occasionally when I've been in the gym looking at people who have gone to the gym but are basically just standing around not doing very much. I don't think the gym is doing them too much good. Yes, they've gone, but they haven't really exercised very much at all. And so it is in our experiences. God takes us through times of what we perceive as difficulty and problem, And yet in it, God is desiring that we grow through dependence upon him. And we have this assurance that although we perhaps prefer the easier times, God has a purpose in the difficult times that will produce growth that only the difficulties could bring.